Imagine standing before the aftermath of one of the most baffling heists in modern history. A theft so brazen it left the world in utter disbelief. Almost $2 billion worth of priceless artwork vanished into thin air without so much as a clue. How could someone pull off a robbery of this scale right under everyone's noses? He didn't just steal art, he orchestrated a mind-boggling operation that has haunted
The
investigators for
case?
years.
A puzzle wrapped in mystery, sending shockwaves through every corner of the art world. No one saw it coming, but somehow he did the impossible.
Then, an infamous art thief captured after swiping almost $2 billion worth of masterpieces.
The single-man thief who deceived the entire world. Investigators were left in disbelief of imagination on how could one person steal almost $2 billion in priceless art using an unsuspected tools without getting caught for a very long time.
Picture this, a disheveled figure in an oversized jacket, armed with nothing but a screwdriver and a makeshift antenna. This was Stephen Breitwieser, born on October 1st, 1971, a man who defied all odds to pull off one of the most audacious art heists in history, stealing a staggering $2 billion worth of masterpieces right under the noses of vigilant guards. How did he manage such a feat with just these unassuming tools? Join us as we unravel the chilling tale of a man who orchestrated a monumental theft in plain sight, revealing the dark allure of art, deception, and the lengths one will go to claim a legacy. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. It was March 1995 in the shadowy town of Greer, Switzerland. Here in the heart of Europe, a Frenchman named Stephen Breitwieser arrives, not alone, but accompanied by his girlfriend, Anne Catherine. Their destination? The ominous Greer Castle, a fortress steeped in history and shrouded in mystery. This castle, now a museum, houses a trove of antiquities and priceless art, relics of a bygone era that whisper secrets of the past. As they wander through its dark corridors, their footsteps echo against the stone walls, leading them deeper into a labyrinth filled with haunting paintings and eerie relics. Each room holds a story, a ghostly presence that seems to watch their every move. Little do they know, this visit to Greer Castle will set into motion a series of events that will turn their lives and the art world upside down. What began as a simple tour of a historic site will soon spiral into a tale of theft, betrayal, and unimaginable ambition. Are you ready to uncover the dark truth that lurks within these ancient walls? Let's dive in. As Stephen and Anne wandered through the castle's dimly lit corridors, surrounded by the whispers of history and the soft glow of ancient art, one painting drew him in like a siren's call. It was the creation of the renowned German artist, Christian Bale Hans Dietrich. The artwork depicted a woman in an elegant dress, her gaze piercing through the canvas, seemingly locking eyes with anyone brave enough to stand before her. In that moment, it felt as if she was not just an image, but a living entity, beckoning Stephen closer, inviting him into her enigmatic world. This connection sent a shiver down his spine, igniting a spark of obsession that would soon lead him down a dark and treacherous path. In that instant, a powerful urge surged within Stephen, a compulsion he had never felt before. He had always been law-abiding, yet the allure of that painting consumed him, whispering dark promises in his mind. This painting should be mine, one he thought, the words echoing like a haunting refrain. Unable to suppress the thrill, he turned to Anne Catherine, his heart racing, and confessed his audacious desire. I want to steal that painting. What had started as a simple museum visit was now spiraling into a reckless obsession, one that would challenge the very core of his being. Naturally, one would expect Anne Catherine to scold Stephen, to caution him about the chaos and danger that such a decision could bring. But instead, she surprised him, a mischievous glint in her eye. What a brilliant idea! Let's do it, she exclaimed. Together they returned to the museum, a quiet atmosphere enveloping them as they moved through the dimly lit halls. The place was nearly deserted, the few tourists barely making a ripple in the stillness. With security minimal and no surveillance cameras to capture their every move, the odds seemed in their favor. While Anne kept a vigilant watch over the corridors, Stephen approached the coveted painting, his heart pounding with adrenaline. He meticulously pried it from its imposing frame, each movement deliberate and stealthy. As he carefully folded the artwork, he tucked it beneath his oversized jacket, a secret now hidden close to his heart. With a sense of triumph, he motioned for Anne, and together they slipped out of the castle, oblivious to the storm that was about to engulf them. What began as a simple heist unfolded into the dawn of history's most infamous art thief. For Stephen, this theft ignited an unquenchable desire to claim the beauty of those paintings as his own. He had always found solace in the world of art, where every brushstroke told a story, but the moment he held a piece of that beauty in his hands, he experienced a thrill unlike any other, a deep yearning that beckoned him to chase that feeling again and again. Thus, Stephen plunged into the world of art theft. He roamed from country to country, moving from one exhibition to another. Across Europe, he executed approximately 240 heists in 172 galleries spread across 7 nations. Remarkably, no one ever apprehended him. Was it sheer professionalism that allowed him to slip through the cracks? What intricate plans did he devise to ensure his escape each time? Surprisingly, his heists were quite straightforward, reminiscent of his very first one. His beloved partner, Catherine, became his permanent partner in these operations. She took on the crucial role of watching the corridors, while Stephen focused on the artwork. With deft hands, he would unscrew the bolts, securing the painting to its frame. Once free, he'd carefully fold it and slide it beneath his oversized jacket, ready for their escape. But was security truly that weak? The key to Stephen's success was his sharp intellect in target selection. If he had set his sights on museums or well-known galleries, he'd have been caught in no time, given their robust security measures. Instead, Stephen cleverly targeted lesser-known galleries and museums, where the defenses were far more relaxed. The only tools Stephen used in his operations were the screwdriver he used first to unscrew the paintings from their frames, an antenna of the kind that expands, which he used to deflect the surveillance cameras from the galleries he was stealing from, and of course, the large jacket that he used to hide the paintings inside after folding them. Of course, the most important tool he had was his self-confidence and the coolness of his nerves, which kept him calm under any pressure that might occur during the operation. This amazing confidence made him able to steal from the same gallery or museum continuously. He only disguised himself with something simple and unsuspectable, like a mustache or a beard, and stole again from the same place. You know, his self-confidence made everything look so ordinary. According to estimates by the New York Times, the total value of the paintings and artwork he stole was about $2 billion. Imagine the number. Despite all this, Stephen never shown any sign of wealth and affluence. On the contrary, he was living a below-average life. He was working as a waiter in a restaurant, and his girlfriend Catherine was working as a nurse. Imagine that they were living in the attic of Stephen's mother's house. They weren't even able to provide themselves with a decent home compared to the current worth of the masterpiece stolen. So why did they live like this? Despite all these thefts and the high value of the paintings he had, the reason remains that Stephen has not sold any of the paintings he stole. Why? The reason is that he was not stealing these paintings to benefit financially. He was stealing them because of the love he had for the specified art in these paintings. If we can remember first theft we talked about, Stephen stole this woman's painting because he was actually impressed with her beauty and the art in it. And from that time, he stole the paintings that he really liked and was impressed with, not because of their high value or monetary benefits. Every corner and every void in the walls of Stephen's modest apartment was filled with stolen paintings worth ranging to $2 billion. Strange thing, but that was the thing that gave Stephen a huge advantage as an art thief. This is one of the reasons why the police couldn't catch him. Because in fact, most art thieves get caught after a short time, once they start selling the things they stole, but the case of Stephen turns different. This is one of the most important reasons why Stephen was not caught, despite the hundreds of thefts that he committed. But Stephen had a problem of another kind, which is artistic greed. He wanted to grow his artistic collection more, which a bad turns on him as he's never satisfied, and he could not stop. So he continued to commit thefts without any clear goal or a specific point at which he intended to stop. He did this until he made a fatal mistake that turned his life to worse. This theft was in Switzerland, which happened in the museum of a city called Lausanne, and the year was 1997. Stephen and Catherine entered the museum, identified the painting as a target, and began their usual process. Catherine observed the corridors, and Stephen carried out the process of extracting the painting from its frame. After Stephen unscrewed the screws from the frame, he took out the painting, folded it, and inserted it into the large jacket as usual, and then calmly and confidently went to the door of the museum. On their way working out from the museum, one of the guards noticed that Stephen was trying to hide something beneath under his jacket. The guard began to feel suspicious that something strange was happening, so the guard went and took a quick tour around the museum and noticed that there was a missing painting. He ran after Stephen and Catherine, who came out of the museum and got into their car. Before the car could start moving, the security guard stopped the car and prevented Stephen from escaping. And because a police station is not too far from the place, the area had many policemen present, so Stephen had no choice but to surrender himself to the police without resistance. Stephen was detained in the police station, awaiting his trial the next day. The trial was very small and simple because the crime was not considered a major one, and the painting that Stephen was stealing was not of high value or of great importance. So Stephen came crying and pretending to be remorseful in court. Then he said that this was his first time of doing anything like this in his life, and that it was just a momentary decision due to a strange impulse that possessed him to own a painting. He did not have a criminal record, and the representation of remorse and regret to the judge appeals very convincing. All these reasons made the judge to be convinced and released him without a heavy penalty. The judge's ruling was that Stephen remains under an 8-month supervision period and that he must leave Switzerland immediately, and he will not be able to enter it again until his period of supervision ends, which means after 8 months. This incident did not affect Stephen at all, which shows how determined he already was. And during the years that followed, he continued with the usual theft in various places, mostly in European countries, except for Switzerland, of course. 4 years later, Stephen felt that the stealing attempt he was caught in had been forgotten, and the time had come for him to return to Switzerland again. So he and his sweetheart Catherine simply boarded the plane and traveled to Switzerland. Then they went to the same city where he had been arrested 4 years ago, Lausanne. But this time, the operation was not in the same museum. In this museum, Stephen set his eye on an old antique trumpet that was inside a glass showcase, and it was a little more difficult to steal than the paintings. However, he was able to steal the trumpet as usual, under his overcoat, and he left the museum with no trace. Stephen was too self-assured and sometimes to the point of arrogance. 2 days later, he decided to go back in disguise to the same museum and steal a new piece of art. He entered confidently with Catherine and put an eye on the painting he was targeting. Catherine began carrying out her usual task of observing the passages, and he began the process of removing the painting from its frame. After he finished removing the painting, he hid it under his coat as usual, but this time he found himself surrounded by guards from every direction. What happened this time appears to him as a shock, as one of these guards remembered his face from the operation he had done 2 days before. This guard felt that this man was suspicious. He told his colleagues, and they moved to monitor him and caught him red-handed while he was stealing the painting from its showing place. After that, Stephen was again arrested and detained at the police station. During police investigations and interrogation, Stephen tried to play the same game as last time and told them that it was just a momentary tendency to steal and that he regretted everything else. But this time, the excuse was very weak because first he stole the trumpet and then came back to steal the painting. It was impossible for this to be a momentary tendency, as obviously this looks too, as these were all arranged robberies. After searching and investigating, the investigators obtained the report regarding the previous theft in the same city where the judge's sympathy occurred in 1997. The investigators knew that they were in front of a serial thief, so the Swiss police contacted the French police and told them the details of the case. The French police obtained a warrant to search Stephen's apartment, which, as we said, was located in the attic of his mother's house. When the police entered the house, and there was a surprise, the apartment was completely empty of any paintings or artwork. There was no trace of anything in it. How did this happen? How did all the artworks disappear? Well, what happened was that Catherine, Stephen's girlfriend, at the moment of his arrest, immediately called his mother and told her that he had been arrested and told her that she must hide all the stolen paintings and artworks without any delay. Indeed, the mother moved as quickly as she could and got rid of all the art that was in the apartment. She simply burned part of it, and when she felt that she could not burn the rest, she threw it into the water canal in the city. Several days later, some people noticed that there were paintings in the water canal, and when the authorities came and began to extract these paintings, they realized that all of them were stolen paintings from different museums around Europe, and some of these paintings were worth not just millions, but tons of millions. After the news spread, the Swiss police who were holding Stephen were informed. Of course, Stephen didn't know anything about what had happened. The investigators said that they had obtained a secret treasure. Stephen surrendered and began to confess and told them everything. Even the police and the investigators did not imagine that one person could have stolen all these paintings and artworks from various European countries from more than 150 galleries. Stephen confessed everything. After his confession, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but he only spent 2 years in it. Stephen was not the only one who was arrested. Catherine was also imprisoned for 6 months, and his mother was imprisoned for 1.5 years because she was the one who destroyed the paintings. His beloved Catherine left him after she got out of prison. She did not want to continue her life with him anymore. As for his mother, she never communicated with him. Stephen lived a very bad and terrible life years after he got out of prison. He lived alone and poor and became depressed most of the time. Stephen tried to write a book about his life in order to earn some money to live and called the book Confessions of an Art Thief, but it did not achieve significant sales and failed commercially. After Stephen felt that the doors were closed in his face, he decided to go back again to stealing artworks, but this time it was not for the sake of art. His aim was to sell the paintings and get money. And as we said, the thieves who try to sell the stolen art are mostly the ones who get caught. Indeed, he was arrested in 2011 while he was trying to sell a unit of these paintings that he had stolen. And after they searched the apartment, they found 40 stolen more different paintings. So he was arrested for the second time. Like last time, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. After he got out of prison this time, he remained under surveillance, and he was arrested for the third time in 2019 when he was caught trying to sell some antiquities on eBay, though these items were most likely stolen before he was arrested. Following his arrest in 2019, Stephen seemed to vanish from the public eye. No headlines, no updates, just silence. Yet despite fading from the spotlight, Stephen Breitwieser cemented his legacy as the greatest art thief in history. And let's be real, it's a title that's unlikely to be challenged anytime soon by anyone. And that wraps up today's documentary story. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on more fascinating stories like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.